Everyone, my name is Kevin Kamau.
And I'm Mercy Kamau.
And we are the Kamaus. So we have this privilege to actually host this talk by COF, which maybe most of you might wonder what COF is. COF actually stands for Couples of Faith. And COF is actually a ministry of married Christian couples that comes together and promotes the relevance of marriage. And just as God had intended it to be. So, we usually, have fellowships, we read the Bible, we encourage each other. So it's a really, really group to be in. It's a group that will really inspire you, especially if you're a young married couple. Yeah.
Very well. So next we are joined by some guest couples here, and I would like for them to introduce themselves and tell us who they are, what they do, and then thereafter we'll progress as even discuss the topic of today. So perhaps we can start with this couple right here.
Good evening. We are the Kimuyus. My name is Daniel. We have 2 kids. One is 6.5 and 5.5. I consult in monitoring and evaluation, and in the region, I work in the region with different donors. Yeah, I've been in consultancy business for the past 11 years or so. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Naomi Kimuyu. I work in research, but I'm also currently a student. Student for the last 1.5 years, but worked in research over the last over 10 years. It's a pleasure to be here and looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My name is Reverend Gatuma Mbogo, and I'm a born-again Christian. I'm so happy to be with us here. And I'm a priest in the Anglican Church, ACK St. Mark's Westland. And I love couples of faith, couples meeting, and of course getting to see how we are faring. And this is Leah with me, my wife.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Leah Gatuma, and I am a marriage and family therapist, as well as currently as I work for All Saints Cathedral as a children minister. Very passionate about marriage, very passionate about family, and so look forward to this conversation.
Thank you so much, the Gatumas. Perhaps you can progress.
My name is Karumba Kinywa. I am a consultant in the area of strategy, risk and investment. We've been married since 2006, and we are blessed with 3 children, and I'm a member of Couples of Faith.
Good evening. My name is Paris Karumba. I'm a fashion and interior designer working for Vintage Closet, and as well as an admin at Pine Hill Consulting. I'm happy to be here today, and looking forward to having a lot of interaction as a couple, and just reaching out, as we call it, market preaching. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, the Karumbas. And joining us online, we also have Dr. Sur, and perhaps he could also introduce himself. Yes, even as we wait for Dr. Sur, I would want to say thank you so much, our guest couples, for creating time to be here today and to even be able to engage with us on the topic of the discussion today. And even also welcome those who are joining us online, who are viewing us through YouTube, and we thank you so much for creating time for us today, and we ask that even as we continue, that you can also interact with us through the comment section down there below. You can put in your comments, you can put in your questions, and then thereafter we can be able to respond to them or even interact with them as we continue. So I don't know if you're able to reach Dr. Sur right now, or maybe we can perhaps just progress from where we are right now, and then perhaps you can join him. He can join us a bit later. So for now, I think we just progress for now as we wait for him. And so, yeah.
Yeah, so as we wait for Professor Su, So he's in. Oh, maybe. So, as we wait for Dr. So, we have been waiting for this talk. It's been crazy because I experienced something, and I don't know whether it's stress, but maybe at the end of this talk, maybe I will know. Maybe it was stress. Maybe it's the good kind of stress. Maybe it's the kind of bad stress. But we'll be talking about stress management. And also stressors, how to deal with it in different fields, which will come, and we have very competent speakers here, guests who will actually take us through, and you will also have the freedom to even have questions in case you have any queries, and then we have very interactive sessions. So maybe I can start right up. Let's start from the top. What is stress, and what are stresses? Because people hear stress, everybody must have their own definitions. But maybe I will shoot up straight from Leah. Maybe you can tell us.
Okay, so I'd say that stress is any event that we encounter in terms, or we perceive to be a threat, so or a situation that we perceive to be a threat, and we react. So you could react mentally. You keep telling yourself messages that are really negative about the situation. Or physiologically, the body begins to react, and you could sweat, your heart could beat faster. Or mentally, or psychologically, you torture yourself. Or maybe your behavior, you could start shouting or walking and pacing around. So our reaction, whichever way you react, then we could say that you are going through stress. I think that's what I would say. Yeah.
Right. Right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So you've talked about stress.
Mm-hmm.
And what also what are stressors as well? Because they stress, and this is some stressors at the same time.
Yeah, so maybe also say that when it comes to stress, especially for relationships, you would say it's anything that is concerning the two people who are in that particular relationship. So, for example, if it's a couple we are talking about here, any situation that concerns the two of them or is affecting them, or maybe even affecting one person and it spills over to the other person, then it can be said to be stressful. So you're asking, what are stresses?
Stressors.
Oh, stressors. By the way, there are different kinds of stressors. You could have an internal or external stressor. An internal stressor could be a situation we are going through. We are having a conflict. There's something we are conflicting about, maybe to do with our values or our belief system. And so we get stressed about that. It could be external, so that maybe at my workplace I encounter a situation that really puts me down, and then it spills over. Or it could be a major stress or a minor stress. Major stress could be some things that are going on that are so huge. Maybe you lost a baby, or maybe you got a divorce and you are trying to get into another relationship, and that's a major thing that has just happened. Or an accident, that handicaps you. Or thirdly, it could be critical, or it could be, a situation where this stress is continuous. So it could be something that is an everyday occurrence. I'm getting late to go to my appointment, or I'm getting late to go to work. Or it could be that some situations that have been continuous, like, say, for example, an illness, or situations that continue, and so that it becomes chronic kind of stress. So acute or chronic.
Or maybe perhaps I could add and say, I think stress is there in life. Whether you like it, as long as you are living, you'll be stressed by one thing or the other. I see what happens is when you are facing challenges and difficulties, and your resources are thinly spread. Because you can say stress stretches. It pulls all that you have, but it is not enough. So you find your resources are not enough, and you are wondering what to do. So kind of you feel you are depleted, you don't have enough energies. And so rather than the way we say depression presses you, stress actually stretches you further than you are able. And we can say it's when the resources are not enough. Some people will be stressed, say like when you're in a jam and you have peace of mind. You wait until the lights are off, you know. But when you had a busy schedule and you are late, then you start wondering what to do, you know. So stress comes when the resources are not enough and you're not able to handle. Yeah, that's what I think.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think that is a very, very comprehensive way of discussing about stress. But maybe something maybe to understand more about stress. What are some of the pointers that you can say these are the symptoms that someone can be seen with, and to say that they have stress? What are the symptoms of stress that you can actually identify?
There could be physical show that somebody is going through stress. And I'll give you a very quick example. Recently took my mom to hospital. She woke up and told me, my heart is beating so fast, I don't know what's going on. And I'm feeling very weak. So I took her to hospital, and the doctor listens to the situation. The pressure was up to the roof, for lack of a better way of putting it. Doctor listens to the situation and her pains and all that, and then finally says, I think you need to see a counselor. And that already told me, the doctor reads that the situation he is checking is not equivalent to or should not be causing that high of a pressure and, you know, the palpitations and things like that. So generally speaking, therefore, you can have physical symptoms, and those will tell that that you it's a symptom to show that you are stressed. So somebody can actually tell. On the other hand, it could be that you begin to withdraw and to isolate yourself from company or from people, and to be alone. And so sometimes people will notice if it's your friends or your family, and they can tell there's something wrong with this person. Yeah, so sometimes it can be that people can see because of the behavior, how you move away and things like those. Yeah. You want
yeah. Well, maybe personally, if you are stressed, perhaps you find yourself your sleeping patterns, for example. You are not able to sleep well, or you sleep too much. You know, some people get stressed, and they take out their stress on food. So you eat too much, or you eat too
Very true. Very true.
You know, those are the extremes that we have. You know, sometimes some people, when they are stressed, their ability to hold anger is not there. You know, it is like they are on a flight. They are not able to fight, so they run away. So as Leah is saying, it can be something that is inside, so it is withdrawing, but also it can be something that people can see. You know, sometimes when people are stressed, like she's saying about, you know, breathing rhythm, you can see on their faces, you know. Some people, when they are stressed because of maybe anger or something, you find that they are feeling thirsty quickly. And you find when people are on a corner or pressed, they will sweat, you know. So the body and the emotions, we call it, you know, the soul and the mind and the spirit. And that is where we come as Christians, because our bodies and our souls and our spirits are one. So when one is affected, the whole of you is affected. Yeah.
Thank you, Reverend Gatuma. You've actually touched on a very interesting part where you have talked about when one of our part is affected, the whole of us, as a holistic, is affected. So maybe what I would want to know is, okay, if you would find we have born again Christian couples who might be dealing with stress. How would you advise them maybe to deal with stress, maybe on a spiritual level? Because now, if you say if you have a spiritual issue, it will also affect your physical. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think as Christian, there are three things that I would want to point out before we come to what you are saying. Number one, we have established and said, as long as you are living, you be stressed. Secondly, as a Christian, you go through trials, temptations, on all that kind of a life. It's a life of two kinds of stress. The good stress that helps you actually to get better. That is if you respond well, positively, with kind of balance. And the other stress where it is to the extreme, that you're not able to hold yourself. In that case, for me, I would say for a Christian, when stress comes, we should always remember there is a resource that is always available. God is there. And God has placed your spouse there in your life. So if you are all alone, you can be able to tell yourself, like David used to encourage himself and tell himself that God is there, trust in God. But when your spouse is near, and for today, of course, we have the phones and everything, you're able to share and speak out and say, this situation is ABCD, what can I do? In other words, don't stay stuck there when you can consult God, when you can maybe talk with your spouse and tell them what you're going through. But above all things, connecting with God means that any moment you can go to God, you can call upon God, you can pray. If it is something that is taking long for example, loss of job, you can do something. Go out, look for that job, pray, knock on people's door. Yeah.
And maybe just to, as we progress with you, Reverend Gatuma,
Yeah.
then, it is deemed that the church, being in church, would help you relieve stress.
Yeah.
But in true sense, actually, sometimes the church could be a source of stress.
Yeah.
Are there such instances?
Well, I think I would say two things that are maybe it looks funny. Number one, God is a stressor. God can be a source of stress in your life. Okay. When Jesus tells you carry your cross, it's not very exciting. Yeah. When you come to church, people want to look the best. So if you see your neighbor maybe more colorful or driving the best car, that can be a stress for you, But I think for me, being a Christian and being there in the church, there are two things that are very, very true. One is the connection you have with the church, with God, of course, but with his people. So a Christian, we should not say that a Christian should never get stressed, but a Christian have the ability to connect with the pastor, connect with your cell group or Bible study leader, connect with those people perhaps who are higher than you. Have people that you can share what you are going through with. Tell them what you are going through. As much as we can say God is a stressor, I think the devil is a 24/7 stressor. Because he brings all these other bad things that happen, and whenever you think and feel about, say, for example, temptation, hard times, that are actually triggered by the evil one, we are able to overcome because the church is not only there, but our services in the church, they are organized in a way that you actually connect with God. You're worshiping, and you are connecting with the source of your answers. Yeah, that's what I would think. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Thank you so much. That is very, very informative. We are very excited. Well, we also want to look at the thing on the ground, the reality of life. Most of us are employed, most of us go to work. But maybe I would like to pose this to Dan. Maybe you can tell us, for a situation where you find someone has a job they have been looking for a long time, and then they start now moving away from family, and yes, they're bringing the bread home, the daily bread, but they don't have enough time for family. So how can one have that balance of work and life at the same time?
Yeah, thank you very much. So basically, I think I'll quote my own examples. Like when you got married, like we turned 11 years now in November, and over the past 9 years or so, I'd been traveling a lot. And initially it was exciting, going to a new country. But then, of course, with respect to experience and you get more calls for new jobs and more donors come over, it got to a point whereby now you get overwhelmed. So like a job comes here, maybe you're called in maybe Latin America, or Asia, here is World Bank, here is USAID calling you, and you want to please all of them. But then you look back like you are hardly around. I think there's a year I was gone out of the 365 days. I was around here, I think, in 40 days. And here is my lovely Naomi. And so how do you manage that? I mean, how did I manage that? So in my own examples, one, we tried to have her visit. Like, I would take some short leaves while I was away. Then she would visit the country and would spend time. But you see, it's not like we would have all the time together, because you see, she's there. I'm trying to work, even if my boss knows that my spouse is around. But once in a while, if it was like 10 days off, he would send an email after maybe like 2 or 3 days. Like, how about this? So I'll need to respond to that. So I mean, that's stressful, because she's traveled all the way, coming thinking that we're going to spend time, but then it can't really say that. I can't really say that it worked out completely. The other thing is we made it deliberately that every day at a certain time, then I would cut off my work just to speak to her, and I make it deliberate, because at times, especially if we're in different time zones, it was really difficult, because like if we are in 8 hours apart, then that would mean when she's going to bed is when I'm waking up. Yeah. And she has to attend to the kids, and I have to rush somewhere. And at times, if I work late, then it means when she's ready to talk to me, I am tired. So we made it deliberate that at this time of the day, no matter what is happening, so if I'm like 3 hours or 8 hours behind, I would tell my colleagues or the team that I'm working with that, hello, this is time for my family. Then we would ensure that if I'm in the field, then I would ensure that I have internet connectivity, so that at least I talk to them at that particular hour. And then somehow that worked. But you see, it only works if you're not long for long, And then the other bit is the issue of the work itself. When you're trying to serve so many masters, like if you have different clients, at times you're not able to stretch. You get overstretched, and that is stressful, because even if you want to, you can't be able to deliver everything at once, and that way, even if you are planning to talk to her or to talk to them at a time T, it means that probably you'll not have enough time to deliver on the others. So what has helped us, or what has helped me, is I've been praying to God as a young family, or now we're no longer young, yeah, but to be able to know when to say no, and when to pick what is enough. You can't serve all the masters. So there are times when you would be called for different jobs, but then you would need to say, no, I'm taking this one, mainly because you want to have not only time to deliver to that particular client, but also to have time for family. Because it's like, 24 hours, at times you do even 16, 18 hours. And if you have several clients, then you'd find that time may not really be enough. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is very interesting. No, you've explained, how what happened in the different time zones, but definitely there are times you would find the families that do not know how to balance this. There are those who actually are skewed maybe towards family, others are skewed towards work. For those families that do not know how to have that balance, how does it affect them? Maybe you can tell us.
Okay. So yes, I've seen families breaking down, as in completely people divorcing, and but I think what I've come to appreciate now. I think I would be more skewed towards the positives. I think what really is helpful is to leave it to God. To be prayerful, like just to weigh on to what Ekuma said. If if you're deliberate from the word go about this, even as you make decisions that I will be taking this particular position or will be taking this particular job, you would need to be deliberate that God should be at the center of it. You ensure that you are constantly praying to God to direct you, just like the way it's promised in the Bible that when we pray and believe, we need to know that, and you know, it's a thin line to be able to know, is God really directing me in the right direction? Is God telling me that this is enough? Yes. So I think what should be really helpful is what would really be helpful is if we are prayerful about it, and you wholeheartedly together pray about it, and I'm sure God will give you the direction.
Thank you so much. So even as we continue, I just encourage us, those who are viewing us online, that you can place your comments at the comment section. You can also place your questions at the comment section. Now, to progress to the Karumbas, and in these times of COVID-19, we are financially stressed. As a matter of fact, we cannot even survive on that one job, and as a matter of fact, we are not even getting now those many jobs as he's talking about. Right now, even to get that job is a problem. So how are finances causing us stress in these times?
Thank you very much. My definition of stress is when there is a difference between outcomes and expectations. So if your expectations is very high and then you don't achieve that, comes below, you'll be fairly stressed. Although there are some people who are also stressed due to their achievements. Probably you started a business or a job, you've been promoted very fast, and you're overwhelmed, but you can call it some positive stress, which is not good for you. So from a financial point of view, there are actually very many stressors. And indeed, when you think of couples, studies show up to 70% of stress in relationships on disagreements emanate from money, because we humans are naturally selfish and self-centered, and yet we are called to share our resources as a couple. It doesn't help that there is social media, where today I can post that I'm in a good hotel, as if it's mine, really. And my friends, once they see it, they begin to envy me. So we have seen a lot of financial mismanagement. Realize we don't get much financial training throughout school, and yet every day we spend money, or we spend time looking for money. One of the things that is debt. We've seen couples enter into debt right from marriage on wedding day, and that leads to stress. Taking kids to schools they cannot afford, and also buying things to please people who they don't even know, like cars, what we call conspicuous consumption items, which then leads to stress. But we also know that there are people, when they are stressed, go into spending spree. I know of a friend, when they get stressed, they go to a supermarket or a store, they buy themselves some good shoes. They just say, I want to buy me some good shoes. So, get my nails done, hair done. And after that, then there is a financial burden. One of the things that is causing stress is easy access to credit through mobile phones, apps that now you can actually, and they really push it. Please, now you're qualified for 50,000, 10,000, 5,000, and you borrow. But in my view, among the in family, there are a couple of things. Actually, your personality is a key determinant of stress. There are people who we call them like alpha males, alpha females. They are driven to achieve, and they are always on the edge wanting to achieve. Also, if you come from a family where you have competitive families, so you're told your brother is a doctor, what are you making of your life? Or your brother just built a flat, and you, what are you thinking? So we as spouses can cause each other stress. I imagine a couple without children, and one person is becoming a stress to the other. One person who's never satisfied with the cooking, with the cleaning, with the money they get. I don't know, my parents might have some comments, especially on the debt part,
Yes.
because debt can be a major cause of stress, especially when you start to receive those phone calls and to default.
Okay.
Yeah, I think my biggest thought about stress in finances is when you live a lie. Like, for example, like he has said, you know, you post you're in an expensive hotel, or you have just bought a new Porsche, and you see, you're not even asking this person, I mean, was I given as a gift, or is it like, you know, like a gift from the company or something like that? And then when somebody else sees what you have at that particular moment, without even digging deeper to know exactly how did you manage that, or, you know, have you been saving for the last 20 years to achieve that goal, they want to live the same life that you're living. And that way, there's a lot of competition. Like you've seen, I'm sure, you know, you're using these roads all the time. You see, probably I'm driving a Vitz, and someone is driving a Mark X, for example, and I want to race. Not even, and the person I'm racing with does not even realize that, I mean, I'm competing with them. So I don't even know where they're going or their destination, but yet I want to race and show them, by the way, if you think your car can do better, mine can do as well. And taking it back to what we're experiencing is the same. Today, I live in a 2-bedroom house, maybe because the company is paying for it, maybe because I have inherited something from my parents, maybe because I made a plan that for the next 1 year, I have paid for this house for this duration of time. And then someone else who could be in a better position tells me, no, from your looks, you know, looks are deceiving. From your looks, I think you should be living in Kilimani in a 4-bedroom house. What does that make me feel? If they can see that in me, why can't I? So what will I do? Tomorrow, I will come to you and ask you, by the way, do you know of a bank I can go and get a loan? For what? To please, to be in that class, to prove a point. And then 6 months down the line, I don't have money for my children to go to school. I don't even have food on the table. I have to go looking for people to at least organize something for my family to eat. Yet, I want to fit in that life. And at the end of the day, what that happens is I will end up being so stressed. I will even, you know, as Pastor Gatuma said, we have those thoughts of, I want to commit suicide at that moment. Why? Because I am living a lie. So my biggest bit is, you know, you live within your means. Yeah.
Live within your means. Yeah. And I agree with that. And just as we stay to you, Paris, you know, right now there are different views about even money in relationships, in marriages. And there are couples out there maybe who say that perhaps money is something personal to every person, even as an individual in your marriage. That maybe we should not disclose all our sources of income, for instance. And maybe I should have a secret account from him that could come in handy, you never know, when times are hard, you know. And this actually is a cause of stress. And perhaps maybe you can shed some light on that. What are your thoughts? I think yes.
Yeah, let me take that. There are some people who mislead others by telling them that couples should be fully transparent. My own view is that all of us have strengths and weaknesses. You know, opposite attracts. You always have a spender in a relationship and a saver. So if you expose money to a spender, you'll end up stressed a lot, heavily. Yeah? So my point is, I'm not saying couples should not be fully transparent, but on average, people should discuss what works for them. There are some couples who pull their money together, and then there are some couples who say, my money is my money, your money is our money, which then is also not very, very good. The way we are created as couples, it's best when we bring our synergies together. And indeed, part of the reasons why we get attracted to certain people and not others is because they have got strengths, including financial management, investing, and spending that are complementary to ours. So once you realize that one person is good on long-term investing, let them handle the account for investing, of course with transparency to the other partner who probably is more into spending. But also, one spouse can tend to be very mean with themselves, that they don't buy themselves a new dress, it's a waste of money and all that, saying it's expensive. And then they should yield to their other spouse to support them financially. There are some couples where sharing everything has worked, but my own experience is that because we have different strengths, what tends to happen is they still tend to argue even when the money is together, and to fight even when the money is together, yeah, from one account. And I have seen, I can be a sanguine, going to personalities. I'm always wanting to please people. I meet my friends, I do them a good deed, 5,000 is gone. We hadn't talked with my spouse. But there's something I must say. To create less financial stress in marriage and relationship, we must, all of us, have an emergency account to deal with emergencies which are bound to arise. And secondly, a freedom account. A freedom account is an account that allows people, someone to spend as they wish, so that they don't have to meet an old friend in town and they only want a drink for 50 shillings and they have to call their spouse. Yeah? Or they have to write somewhere. Once you agree this is my freedom account, they can spend it as they wish to meet their most immediate needs without accountability. But also couples, as much as they are being mentored from a relationship point of view, we advise all couples to have a financial counselor, somebody who keeps them into account in terms of financial goals. And that way, they're able to close down on their goals faster. Because left to ourselves, with money in our pockets in town, we are likely to see something very interesting, and that may not be so interesting within the budget that we had as a couple. Yes.
I think to add on to that, like for us, what works for us mostly is we don't have to disclose everything that he has or everything that I have, but we have a list of priorities and items. And we have one rule for us is I can't go get a loan while he doesn't know. He will not go get a loan while I don't know. Because and you find couples doing that. Somebody needs to do something, but because they feel maybe my husband or my wife will refuse, they go behind and get a loan. And then one day you find people in your house trying to auction things. That doesn't work, because at the end of the day, you will be stressed, yourself and your spouse. So for us, we are very particular on what comes first, what is important and urgent, and then what is more urgent and, that is likely to cost us to, put our monies together. And then to add on to something else is we always try, as I have said, try to live within our means, even when we know we can afford something. And I hope couples can even teach their kids to do that. Like, we cannot just walk in a supermarket and decide, because we have a credit card or because as a couple we have access to easy money, we will go on a shopping spree. No, we always avoid, impulse buying. But that does not mean that if I find a good shoe on the street on offer, I will not buy. But then it should not be a habit. Yeah.
Wow. That was wonderful. Yeah, that's great. Maybe I just want to touch something on with Naomi. Because we find that couples come together from very different backgrounds and different, even academic backgrounds. How would you advise couples who maybe the wife has a master's or PhD and the husband maybe has a certificate, but he's supposed to be the head of family, he's supposed to lead this lady. So how do you advise such kind of situations?
Wow. There are many points there. I think the last thing that you were talking about the husband has a certificate and the wife has a
PhD. Clearly.
I think most important is to understand that first, your identity doesn't come from your education. Once you've set that right, it doesn't matter what kind of qualification each of you has. That said, God has made us with desires, and He always wants us to be better, whether it is academically, whether it is in your business, whether it is financially, spiritually, all aspects. He does want us to get better and better. And that means that there'll come a time where there are opportunities for you to grow, or you begin to aspire to do better for yourself. So maybe when you are coming together, like you're saying, that was the situation, the husband or the wife is the one that hadn't really advanced academically. So for me, I'd say very important. It's important for the couples to be able to support one another to grow. Because if you're growing by yourself, you're leaving your spouse behind, I think you're being selfish. It's important for both of you to grow, especially if the other person wants to, is aspiring to do maybe another course, whether it is a certification, whether it is a master's course, whether it is a PhD. If you both agree that you want the other person to grow, then you can agree whether it is finances that are going to determine who goes first. Then you can agree. I know of a couple who've decided that this year it's somebody, one of them is doing their masters, and then when they finish, the other one can go next, because that is how the finances have determined it. They've gotten to that level, and that's the level we should all get to. Doing studies, both of you at the same time, might be a bit stressful because academics comes with a lot of expectations and a lot of requirements. Again, you want, and costs, and again, you want to do your best. So if both of you are studying, then you're adding 2 additional stresses on the fact that I think one of us mentioned that we are different, we come from different backgrounds. That already is a stressor. Then now add children if there are children in the family, add finances if there are finances, then add 2 degrees. Yeah, you might not survive. So you can decide to do one after the other, or you can decide that you go first and then I'll go next. But even as you're doing it, it's very likely that you'll get to points that, like when you're doing exams, those are usually stressful times, or when you want extra time to study, those are usually stressful times. You can agree to support one another. The other spouse can be understanding and say, I know you need the time. I'll take the kids and go do something with them so you can have the time. I'll make sure if it is what is it? If you need time to go and meet with your classmates and do your discussions, then you go, and go without feeling a guilty conscience that you're being away from your family, but also for yourself, not to beat yourself up that I'm being away from the family. But at the same time is to continuously understand that you still have a responsibility to your family, and you still have a responsibility to yourself also, because you might be working very hard to get that degree because you want a job promotion or something, and then you lose the job. I mean, it almost beats the purpose of now aspiring to do that. So it's always remembering that there's yourself, and then there's also your family, and there's God, and there's always all these other relationships we're having. In my circles, because many of us are in one cause or another, there are people doing masters, there are people doing now their degree, or people doing their PhD. Sometimes you hear people telling you examples of, me, I'm working up to 5 or 6, and then from here I go home, and then at night again I go back to the work. It's trying to find that balance and saying, you know what, this schooling, these academics, they'll always be there. Yeah. So then how can I find time for my family? And it's things like what Dan was saying earlier on. When do you say no? When do you say it's enough? So you can decide, I'm going to work until 5 p.m. and I'm going to make it count for my work. If I have to do my degree studies later on in the evening, if my class is maybe up to 8 p.m., that is time for that. And I'm going to give it that and going to give it my best. Because of course God wants us to give our best. Yes. And then after that, if you have set time, like the way Dan was giving an example, we have set time that this is time for doing certain things. Put away those books, put away those things. They can wait. Tomorrow, if your spouse is not there because you are so busy doing something else, you will have lost that time. You cannot gain it back. So you put those boundaries there. The academics also have boundaries in your life. That this is time for you. Let's do your schoolwork. Let's do all this. But I still have children to take care of. I still have a husband to relate to. I still have an extended family to relate to. You don't want to be the one who's always constantly missing everything in the family just because you're studying. So you need to appreciate that God has given you that opportunity, but also steward it well. Yeah, and support one another. Yes.
Wow, thank you, Naomi. Thank you so much. That was very, very comprehensive and inspirational. We still have one of our guests online. I don't know whether he's still there. Mr. Sur?
While we are finding out whether they are still there, I was laughing so hard when Karumbas were talking, and I found I want to laugh too when the Kimuyos are talking, because there are certain aspects of what they are saying that really I find we identify with. Like, for example, we went to school together, to the same school, the theological school. Both of us have done theology. And I think the first 4 years we were in class together. And within, I think, those 4 years, we had our 2 children. And I remember one time, my lecturer making fun and saying, it's only in Africa where I find people cannot focus on what they are doing. You know, she was so pissed off. What do you mean you came all the way from Kenya? We studied in South Africa, all the way from Kenya to South Africa, and then you are busy having babies and wasting time that should have been spent, you know, going to school. But let me tell you, I mean, couples are unique in terms of what they determine is workable for them. Because let me tell you, if there's a time we drew close to each other, it's the time we were in school together. And it's the time that we were giving birth and in school at the same time, because we helped each other.
And I think that is when we performed very well, academically. Yeah?
Academically, we performed very well. I do remember one time going to do an exam with a 2-week-old baby. Yes. And I went, the house girl sat outside with the baby. I went in, did my exam halfway. It was a 3-hour exam. I had the baby crying. The instructor knew. I came out, breastfed for like 25 minutes, went in for my last 1 hour, and I still performed. Wow. So to say that, so every couple is unique, and therefore you must determine what works for you. I like what the Karumbas have said about money. Because my husband is a miser, I am the spender. He trusts me, but let me tell you that
we call them a saver, not a miser, a spender.
He's the saver. Oh, he's the saver. Sorry.
Financial director.
And you know, and my wife is good in spending, so
she has a gift of spending.
We don't shame each other. No shame here. We don't shame each other. We just understand each other. I know all his pins to the bank accounts. I know his pin to the M-Pesa. He knows my pin to M-Pesa. He knows my pin to my bank accounts. We can like decide today we are going to use your card, and I give it to him and he goes and spends. We will fuel the car with your card and we go ahead and do that. But we have serious discipline about the boundary of our accounts. Like I will not take his card, go spend, and we didn't talk about it. Yeah. We must converse about it and agree that we are going to do that. So I have serious, I cannot go withdraw. I'm a spender, yes. I will not withdraw money from his account without without letting him know. So anyway, interesting.
the uniqueness,
I think that difference is what complements the two of you, because we are just as much alike. I'm definitely the spender. He's definitely the saver. Oh yeah, shoot director. So I think also maybe as we were speaking about the church, and maybe you can shed light, Reverend Gatuma, and tell us maybe how can the church assist in dealing with these stressors? Yeah, what mechanisms can the church put in place?
Yeah, I think what we have heard about the sources of stress and all that, of course, first it is on the individual level, you know. And I tend to see that kind of a polarity. Before you are born again, you had stresses. You know, once you have given your life to the Lord, the stresses are there because Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Yes. Then he says, "Carry my yoke," because it is easier. So a Christian, you carry the same kind of stresses, but Jesus make it bearable and easier. That's the difference between a born-again Christian and one who is not born again. I have two thoughts about what the church can do. One, already I think when we come on Sunday, there is a way that Christians are able to ease, to reduce their stresses. For example, you know, somebody said jokingly the other day that if you find somebody sleeping in church, don't wake them. Because that is because that is the only place that they are finding peace and they can sleep. You know, and there are people who come to church and once they are going back home, they are happy. Why? As I said earlier, they have connected with God, they have connected with one another. So church is a place where nobody should come and go back the same, because you are met with friends, you are met with God and all that. Secondly, in church we have the opportunity to organize something like what Coffee is doing today. Yeah, we have seminars. We have people in our congregation who are good, like my wife in psychology, you know, Karubas in financial matters, and Kimuyus in areas about work and what one can do. So at the moment, I don't think we are doing very well, but there are seminars and organizations that are working in the church that people are helped to actually reduce their stresses. I think one of the things that the church does, and here we are talking about different departments in the church, is that the church is able to group us in terms of ages and what we are doing, so that the young people, because of the way they are growing up and whatever they are doing, the church is able to address a number of the areas that bring stress, you know. Like when you talk about issues to do with the drugs, you know, alcohol abuse and things like that, I believe among the young people, there are ways that the church is able to address some of those issues. College students, university students, when they come to church, when seminars are organized targeting them, you know, and I see in the church there are people who may be stressed because of where they are, like we have all mentioned. But the issue of the lordship of Jesus Christ in our lives, for me, it is an area that the church needs to continue to engage with the congregation, for people to know that there is a place that they can run. Why do I say that? Out there, other than the advices all of us are giving, there are people who tell people, if you feel stressed, go and take a beer, you know, one for the road, one for, I don't know where else they go, you know. There are people actually, I'm hearing some of these philosophies in life, and I wonder whether people hear about God, that opium and these other drugs reduce stress. You know, and it is actually true that there is a release, there is some freedom that comes, but it is short-lived. So the church is there actually to advocate for the things of God and how we need to handle our stresses. Yeah, I think that's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just to chip into what Pastor Gatuma is saying, the one of the references to Christ in Isaiah chapter 9 is that he's wonderful counselor. So the church really ministers to our spiritual beings, but we are also emotional beings. And stress has a lot to do with our emotions, which then affects other parts of our body, as we've been told. But I have to say, many Christians who are facing emotional problems tend to treat them as spiritual problems. And when that happens, there is a verse that says that my people perish for lack of knowledge. We all need a mechanism to realize when we are about to go into stress, when we are stressed, and when we are coming out of stress. I myself, in my 20s, I'm not too far from there, but in my 20s, I faced stress and I didn't recognize stress. The moment you start to, as the Gatumas were telling us, to lose sleep, to sweat uncontrollably, to always worry, a lot of backaches we hear, a lot of stomach aches we hear about, and diseases. And indeed, right now it's been proven that stress is a big cause of cancer through reduction of immunity in the body. So we need to do more to tell people that when you are stressed, go to a counselor. When you have spiritual needs, go to a pastor. To the extent that that pastor is a trained psychologist, they can help you. But many Christians today are unable to address the wonderful counselor part of Christ, because he's a wonderful counselor, and nothing can change that. But we must recognize when we ourselves are stressed. Some people, when they're stressed, they talk a lot, as we were told. They spend a lot. And that's the interesting thing with stress, that we all react differently. Some people may refuse to eat, while others eat a lot. Some people may sleep a lot, while others sleep less. Other people may become better groomed. Other people neglect themselves. So it's very important also that people around you know how you react when you're stressed. We always, sometimes fighting as couples. I have a saying that home is where we go when we are tired of being nice to people. Because some of the things we tell our spouses, we'd never tell our boss or colleagues. But at home, you're able to manifest that stress. So for those people who have accelerated very quickly to their careers, combined a lot of studies over a very short time, they are prone to stress. And then finally, before I put the microphone down, I want to say, and this is very important, you do not need big things to be stressed. You can be stressed out of minor things. You went to your car in the morning, it refused to start. I cut you off on the way out of the gate. Matatu hooted on you. And then financially, you get a message that your credit card payment is due. You reach to the office late. You find that your favorite newspaper is missing. Then, the moment you open your emails, you find you have 101 emails. And then you had a job offer that it's only now you realize that the pay was not as you expected. So those are minor things, and they can actually be positive things. But collectively, our system is not tailored to cater for it. And we've seen people break up and have breakdowns, and yet they cannot explain what it is. Then we also have stress caused by historical issues. If you've been historically abused, if your parents always put you down, or your teachers, then you can have triggers that the scientists tell us that genetic or historical. So it's very important we become self-aware, and above all, we speak. Therefore, church provides a place where we can be of service to others, where we can engage closely as couples, as individuals, and therefore, we become known. And as we become known, other people may identify stress in our lives. For us, when we realize we are stressed, as individuals, we ought then to accept help, because some people are so stressed that they don't accept help. They end up into depression, which is uncontrolled stress, which now, thank God, a lot of scientific discoveries have come forth to help treat stress and depression, whether from a psychiatrist's point of view or a psychologist's point of view. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add on to what they were saying, regarding church, I think especially for we men, we have a tendency to we men, sisi wanaume, we have a tendency to like hold on to our things, issues that are affecting us on our own. I think just to zero down on St. Mark's and even COF and what is happening even with the Bible studies. I think it's, if we make it deliberate that we have one or two close people that we can just make it deliberate to meet and talk, that really, really, really helps. Yeah, thank you.
It's good to be aware that a lot of times church can be a place where people can be rejected. and therefore it becomes a source of stress in that sense. Say, for example, somebody has gone maybe outside of the norm, you know, moral norm, maybe, for example. Church has been said and known to be the worst supporter as far as that is concerned. Nobody cares to find out what happened. Nobody follows you up. In fact, the best they do is to cut you off, you know, and tell you cannot serve anymore. And I'm not here suggesting that you should. All I'm saying is that it only adds to the problem. Like it doesn't, because if somebody like this one who has gone through maybe whatever the situation was that caused them to be cut off, got somebody from the church, and there was accountability that this person is being followed up and being helped, then likely they can rise up and continue, you know, to serve the Lord, because God does restore, and the church does not tell us that. Once you have a taint, you are done. Everybody will be looking at you with that taint, and that's not what God does. Why aren't we like Christ? Why don't we forgive and allow this person back into fellowship so that they become part of us? And that's why many people, when things happen and they are rejected in church, they go for good. Either they go for good outside of the Christian faith, or they change churches. But then the other thing I want to say, maybe to wind up this point, is to say that we who are believers, and maybe giving my own example as a clergy spouse, a clergy family, you find a lot of kids from clergy families struggle because they never are allowed to be children. It's like from the time you are born, all you know is church, and there is a way church is, and there is a way people must be. You try and go out of that line. Reprimands start from home, so that you never are allowed to be a child. And many Christians do that, so that a child gets to a point maybe into their teenagehood, and they begin to rebel because they are discovering things first and foremost, that you yourself, you are not perfect. They used to hold you up there with certain morals that you kept repeating, and then they realize, kumbe, even you can lie. You know? Kumbe, you can, you know, do one or two things. And they're like, and they are a pastor, and kumbe, even them, they are doing, you know, and they get so disgusted, and unfortunately, they are like, I want nothing to do with this Christianity, on account of that, you know, push that happened from the time that they were young. And so, to find a balance, because Christianity is a living kind of a faith. We live it. Yeah, you've got to show it. So at home, you are consistent with the way you are back in church.
Yeah. Right. Great, thank you so much. Now, we have our long-awaited online guest, Professor Osur. Can you hear us? Yes, we can hear you very clearly. Thank you so much for joining online platform. Maybe you can introduce yourself and tell us maybe what you do.
Your sound got interrupted, so I didn't hear you clearly.
Sorry. Okay, I was just saying, maybe you can briefly introduce yourself and also let us know what you do.
Yeah, thank you. So first, I've been a member of St. Mark's for a while now, so a number of people know me as such. Work-wise, I am the Vice Chancellor of AMREF International University, which is a health specialized university with a focus on Africa. I'm also a medical doctor, specialized in sexual medicine, public health, and reproductive health. So other than being in AMREF, most of the time, I also have my clinics where I attend to patients with intimacy issues, relationship issues, and medical problems related to sexuality and sexual function. So that is who I am. Family-wise, I'm married to Goretti, who most people here know. We have 2 children, Nick and Nicole. Goretti is nearby here, but we had some crisis which she's attending to. So I don't know whether she'll be able to join me before the meeting ends, but she's aware that we are going to be talking about this.
Right. Right. Thank you so much, Professor Sur. As you are listening in from online, we were discussing about stress management, and from your vast professionalism, it has been. There is this norm that people say that intimacy is a way of living stress. Could you maybe help us demystify this sort of notion?
Yeah, complex question. Maybe I should start by saying that I've heard a lot of what colleagues have said about stress. And the first thing in stress is that there is loss of a sense of confidence, a sense of identity, a sense of belonging. You feel lost when you're stressed. And many times it's like there is nothing to look forward to. And you have no safe place to fall back to, and there is a lot of fear of the unknown, fear of the future. Basically, that is the kind of thing that one is going through when they are stressed. Now, if you look at it in that way, that there is a sense of loss, there is a sense of self-doubt, there is a sense of fear and doubt about the future. Even intimacy can be a problem when people are stressed. And there are a lot of patients whom I attend to with low libido, with erectile dysfunction, with other forms of sexual problems. And when you go deep, you find that the main problem really is that they are stressed. And so when they are stressed, the body cannot rise up to the occasion. You cannot find strength to think intimacy if you are stressed. It drains you of the vitality and your body doesn't rise up. So that is what I see mostly in terms of relationship between stress and intimacy. And many times stress leads to a sense of frustration even in relationships. And the person you used to know becomes someone different when they are stressed. They may not be the person you want to be near because they can be very irritable, easily annoyed, and may not even want to talk when stress is at a high level.
Wow. Yes, thank you. Thank you for demystifying that very complex situation. But we know that when people get married, yeah, they probably get married at a young age. But as they progress, they get older and older and older. How would you advise, especially the senior couples whose maybe their level of intimacy maybe is decreasing as they age? How would you advise them, or how do you advise couples to work together in these very stressful situations as they get older?
Yeah, thank you. No, the family can be a source of strength in difficult times, but that depends on how that family has managed itself. I especially want to talk about what I call family traditions. Others call them family rituals. Others call them family myths. When you read the Bible, for example, they talk about genealogy of people, and they talk about a long list of people who came from whoever, and they relate families to specific actions. It's like one person passes the baton to the next, and they carry it on with the family tradition. Families are known for something. Now, the problem we have today is that not many families have what they can call family traditions or family rituals or family cultures that give them self-identity and give them strength when they are outside and interacting with the world. What I mean is this. if you're in a good family, you should be having, for example, eating together as a tradition for you. You should be having things like praying together as a tradition, vacation for the family as a tradition, fun events, celebrations of birthdays, of good performance in school. You know, there are lots of things people can do on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis that are specific to our family, that makes us be identified as the family of Osur. The family of Osur eats together, for example. They always go to church together on a Sunday. They always sit and talk on a Saturday. They watch a movie together on a Wednesday. They do things together that defines them, that makes them a unit that is different from anything else in the world. That family tradition that gives us identity and helps us to identify as different from others gives us the confidence to face life. It gives us a fallback place that when we have problems out there, we can come back and be in this culture that we are used to. Not many families have family traditions, and this is where stress actually begins. And the strength of a family can actually be judged by how much it is able to wither the attacks from outside that would like to interfere with its traditions. And by this I mean, there are so many attacks from outside that can interfere with your family traditions, including the kind of job you choose to take, including the kind of investments you used to take. If those, including technology, if those things start to interfere with what you value as a family tradition, it starts to interfere with your ability to pray together as a family, ability to eat dinner together, ability to go to church together on a Sunday, ability to visit parents or a poor children's home. If the things that define you as a family are getting affected by those external things, by friends, by investments, by whatever else, then the family becomes unstable, then stress levels go up, then people lose confidence of themselves. They have no fallback, they have nothing to look forward to. So I want to zero it down to family traditions, family cultures, the way you celebrate your Christmas. All those things, if we have a strong family tradition, then even our intimacy goes up because there is peace at home, there is fun at home, there is something to look forward to. You know, April is coming, there will be Easter. As a family, our tradition over Easter is normally this. Sunday is coming, there is something to look forward to. As a family, we normally eat lunch together after church. So that really strengthens the intimacy of a family. And what I would like to encourage people to do is to redefine and think and actually list their family traditions, so that when books are written in future, Osur gave birth to so-and-so, who gave birth to so-and-so, and this generation of Osur was known for this, which was their family tradition. And with that, if you have a strong family tradition, intimacy will be okay. Stress will never be as much because you can fall back to your family. That's where the people you trust are. That is where you can be yourself. There is no competition or undercutting in a family because it is just a good place to be, and intimacy will be okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Osur, on that. And even as we continue and we are about to conclude, I just encourage us, in case you viewers have any questions, you can continue to post them online, and then we can also answer the same. And in light of that, we have received one question from a gentleman by the name Ken. And I direct this question to you, Naomi. Yes. How can I deal with stress where my spouse is also my boss? Stresses me at work, but good at home. Should I stress him or her at home too to get even? Yeah? And perhaps anyone else would also want to jump in as she.
Where was that one directed to me?
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Because one negative does not make, I mean, two negatives will not make it right. I mean, if the two wrongs will not make the thing right.
Yeah.
So, perhaps you need to begin to talk about what is going on at the place of work. Is it possible, maybe you've never thought of it from a different perspective. Is it possible your husband has managed, your spouse, because I really don't know
Who is the boss?
My bad, excuse me.
Yeah.
I made an assumption there.
Yeah.
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 I never really know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But is it possible that this person, your spouse, has been able to find boundaries?
Yes.
That work is a place where you do, certain things, and therefore protocols must be followed, related, and boundaries must be followed, so that they are able to keep at it and not restrain themselves from pushing you. Is it possible that that's what's driving them, that work must be done, there must be productivity, and therefore they are seeing maybe you're being a bit too easy on what you're doing? Check. Look at look at what's going on at the place of work differently, and have a discussion around that, because it's possible that there's something you've not understood, and maybe if you had a conversation around that, you'd be able to have more understanding. Home is supposed to be a place of peace, so if work is not giving you peace, why would you want to disrupt? Why would you want to disrupt the peace that is at home?
Yeah.
Because if that's the place where, I can understand that that person is stressed and is not able to maybe have boundaries. For them, what is stressing them at work,
It's
comes
also at
back
home.
and we all do that.
Yes.
Yeah, but have a discussion around that.
Yes.
I think. Oh, sorry. Perhaps I can add and say something like, if that situation is not working for me, I think I really get what Leah is saying. If you're at work and I'm the one, my spouse is my boss, they expect me to work because they're viewing me as a worker, which is the correct view. Then I should also pull up my socks. But if that is not really working and I'm not able to manage that situation, then you need to have a conversation about either you move jobs or you ask God to maybe change your attitude and help you to manage that. Because if something is not working, we really, really should work towards changing it and making it better. You shouldn't have your spouse, you see you're viewing them as your spouse still at work, but now they've become your boss.
Yeah.
Which is the correct view at that time, but it's very difficult to separate that. So I think a discussion also should be had about, is this working? Is this not working? Am I the one who needs to change? The one who's the not boss? And then do I need to find another place to work then? Or does the boss then also need to move? So the boss can move.
All that you can.
Yeah.
So don't look for ways to distract it and disrupt it.
Yes,
I think this I will say from experience, yeah. When you go to work, I think right from home we are a spouse, a husband and a wife, right? We are parents. And how we will handle things at home, probably with very little expectations of accountability, right? But when you go to work, I don't expect him, he's my boss at work, or I am his boss at work. I don't expect him or him expects me, like, you didn't do this, it's okay. And at the end of the day, we have bills we need to pay, maybe the office rent, maybe we have employees we need to pay. So I think for me to answer back to that person is they need to sit down and have discussions around accountability and discipline when it comes to work. Yeah. Maybe you have something?
Okay. Oh, yeah, I think, of course, I've heard of people who their sons or daughters or spouses work for them, and sometimes they can hold them to unjustifiably high standard, trying to compensate for an illusion of closeness at work. So also the person who is becoming a stressor should be fair and reasonable. And yet couples can work comfortably with each other and reasonable expectations. But not to be contrarian. You know, the Bible tells us that the power of life and death is in the tongue. We also have people who say, I'm stressed all the time, even when really they shouldn't. And that can also attract stress can open a gateway through which stress can come into their life. So if the work environment generally is stressful, it cannot even be the boss. There are companies going through paradigm changes, and everybody is stressed. Could be even the boss is highly stressed. So I think that they need to talk, as Reverend Madam Gatuma said about, but also everybody needs to be self-aware. Is the husband overcompensating so that they are seen as if they are not favoring the wife, or vice versa, depending on who's the boss? All the work is or some people are married to hard drivers, people who are impossible to please, and they can be very, very stressful. In financial world, we talk of couples competing with each other, just like brothers compete or sisters compete, where you get a degree, I also get one. You get a car, I also want one. It's not encouragement, but that can be very, very stressful. So let the spouse check for overcompensation or for an illusion of unfair or favorable treatment against their spouse. It can be a subconscious act.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, our lovely guest, for that lovely interaction. And even as we get to the conclusion of this meeting, I would like for each one of us to give a parting shot and maybe just tell us how can we manage stress in our lives? How can we make our lives better out of this show? And perhaps you can start with you.
Yeah, I can start maybe by saying that there are definitely very many ways of dealing with stress. And you need to also study yourself and begin to find out what are the things that really stress you. Because if you can be able to diagnose, then it will be very easy to then move to the next step and ask yourself, so how have I been coping? Because there are ways of coping that are very unhealthy, and there are ways of coping that are healthy. And you can borrow and continue using the healthy ways of coping and begin to find ways of discarding what's not working and what's very unhealthy, so that then you continue to grow and improve. And thirdly, then I would like to also say that you can either change the situation or change how you react to it. So, for example, you could find a way of adapting to the situation or accepting the situation. Say, for example, we are in a space where we have a national or a world pandemic. There is no way you can change that. There are things you can change, but there are others that you cannot change. So in that sense, then you would have to accept it. If somebody has died in your family, maybe it's a parent and it's causing so much stress because your coping mechanism is really so low, it's better you find somebody to help you to accept and adapt to the new situation, because ultimately that situation may not be able to change. On the other hand, you can find ways of changing how you react to situation. Sometimes maybe we overreact to a situation, maybe because we are not seeing the bigger picture. Or maybe we've not learned. I had heard Mr. Kimuyu say that, he learned to say no. Maybe it's just that you need to start being a bit more assertive. So there are things that can be altered. There are things that can be, so find ways of changing how you react by looking at the situation differently.
Maybe to add something more, as Leah is saying, I think the bottom line is simplicity. Take life simply. I mean, in a simple way. As Karubas was saying, there can be a lot of reduction of stress if you can be yourself. Mean what you say and do what you say you do. We are talking of couples here. And then at home, of course, we want to refer to people looking for other sources or mechanisms to cope with stress, because stresses are going to be there. And finally, I would want to say I think I may have made fun by saying that God is a stressor, but God is a stress remover as well. Go to God, seek God. If you are getting through and you are praying and some things are not changing, seek for help from outside. You know, Karibu was saying about psychological counseling. Go for it. And those of us who are in church and you are able to counsel others, you are able to walk with them, bring the resources to church. Come to church. Don't run away. It's where Jesus is. It's where God is. Yes.
Can I do one more thing and say, there is a way that as couples, we've been married for 23 years. It will be 3rd October. So what, 2 weeks maybe to come will be 23 years. And I've gotten to a point where I've learned that you can never agree on everything. And it's okay to not agree on everything. Yeah, if I have a different view and there's a particular situation you've been struggling with in the very recent past, and do you know what I've learned to do? He brings up the topic, I ignore. I will not discuss, I'll just go, And of course he realizes we are not, because the first time we tried discussing that, the emotions were high, and I mean, I realize he's looking to convince me it's not working. I'm looking to convince him it's not working. And we tried that a couple of times, and then I realized, by the way, this thing is really stressing me. And it's robbing us of our peace. We don't have to agree. I can still love him. Yeah, just because we haven't agreed does not mean now I begin hating him because he's not seeing my view. Yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yes. Wow, thank you so much. Maybe first I can go to Osur, then I can come. Yes, maybe Professor Osur can give us your parting shot.
Yeah, thank you. So I think today I just wanted to pass one message that if family is doing well, all these other things that we've talked about can be easily resolved. So let family be the place that you get strength to interact with the rest of the world. And anything that is going to interfere with a good relationship between couples and between families, whether it is earning a lot more money than before, or getting a bigger job, or all those things we do out there, or having other friends, or even joining a new church, if it is going to interfere with the survival of your family, and it's going to interfere with the dream family that you've had and your family traditions which you cherish, please run away from it, because that will be the beginning of your stress. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now you can come to the Karumbas.
Oh, yeah. I think for me, I will have 2 points. One is looking at what influences you to being stressed. If it's money, if it's relationship, if it's children, if it's the world at large, look at what influences you to being stressed and learn to manage it, maybe by speaking out. Speak, especially for the men. Women, we are sometimes chatterboxes. We can't help but talk. And then my second bit is learn to live within what God has given you. Learn to live within your means. And that, I'm not only talking about finances, I'm talking about children at home. Maybe you have 2 and your friend has 5, Learn just to live within what God has given you. The Bible says, Lord, don't give me too much that I may boast. Don't give me too little that I may still. Just give me enough. Learning to live with enough. And then my last one and my biggest one is helping by becoming a stress reliever where you can. If for example, I find my spouse is stressed over something, they may not have a way out, but I can ask God to use me to become a stress reliever. But that does not mean that you carry a load of everyone. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I have just very quickly maybe 3-4 points to share. Number one, we should not let money be our gauge of stress. That the more money we have, the happier we are. When the money reduces, then somebody can become so stressed. So that end month when our salary checks come in, we are delighted. Then as the month goes on, we get so depleted and so stressed. Because our identity should be separate from the amount of money in our bank account. I want also to say that there are some people who become very successful when they are very young or when they are not ready for it. Right now, our banks are holding up to 4 trillion shillings in savings, in current accounts. Some people are making so much money. They are so stressed about the money they have, how to spend it, where to spend it, the time to spend it. So we as financial counselors also know that it's not just luck that causes people to be stressed about finances, too much of it. And also, if you used to have money earlier, then your company closed, and let's say you used to earn a lot of money, then you earn a lot, but it's not as much. Some people really, really get stressed. So what I would advise is 2 things. We find that helping other people, whether it's assisting by donating clothes, donating time, donating school fees, really, really helps people cope with stress. Because as you serve others, you release feel-good hormones within you that help cope with stress. And stress can be good sometimes. Actually, not all stress is bad. If you have a big exam coming up, it's good to be a bit stressed because that makes you a bit alert. And then finally, many of us have been running so fast that our cup is running dry. We've invested, so we've lost so many relatives, so many friends. Our news are all negative that emotionally we are so drained. We, all of us, need to find a way that we can refill our emotional cup, because when that is dry, then stress is bound to attack us. Thank you.
I have one last point that I forgot, which I think actually is the one killing our society, is no matter what is, after you realize what influences you to becoming stressed, do not fear speaking out, because most of the time we are fearing speaking out to be interpreted or said as weak. Remember that when you have a problem, does not interpret your weakness. Speak out.
Go to the Kimuyos.
Wow, everyone has said so many, so many great points. I can add by saying that in our quest to finding our identity, I think the most important is to find our identity in Christ. Let him learn to know God more, and then let him introduce yourself to yourself again. By that I mean learn who you are, like some of those points have been said. Find out your passions, your those long lost dreams, your skills, your abilities, and then engage in those things. So even as you're engaging in all the other things that you're doing, it gives you an avenue to engage in something that you really, really like. So as I come from work and I come home, if I love cooking, then cook. Don't leave that job to someone else. Cook. If you're going to get them to prepare those things for you before, so that you have time to cook, I'm going to cook. Then do it. And that way, like Karumba is saying, you're serving others, you're using the God-given abilities that you've been given, and by the time I'm done cooking, kama nilikuwa na stress ya boss, I've cut those onions. Stress is, I mean, you've cut down part of that stress. And then after that, as people are enjoying your meal, as people are enjoying whatever it is that you have done, if it is your painting skills, if it is your craft, as people are enjoying those things, you also see them enjoying them, and you also enjoy. That way you have an avenue for release. I love everything that has been shared. And I've also learned a lot. Thank you for the opportunity. I could speak until tomorrow. Let me stop there.
Wow, thank you for this opportunity. I had 2 points. I mean, just to weigh on to what has already been said. I think key is family traditions. If you can stick to traditions that you have agreed on, I think you you'll always look forward to them, and that is a huge stress reliever. Whether it's between work-life balance, whether it's finances, whether it's through spirituality, because you'll always across the week or across the month, you'll always be looking forward to a specific thing on a particular day, and that is really helpful. And then the second one is the constant support. You know, whether she's going back to school, whether it's finances, the fact that we are in constant communication and in constant, because whenever she tells me something, then I ask myself, so how do I come in to support? You know, or you discuss how do I fit into support here? So that constant support is really a good mechanism to ensure that those stress levels are always managed. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, now we have come to an end of this wonderful, wonderful, electrifying session. I wish we could go on and go on, but one thing I really want to thank God for giving us a chance, because you know, it is not by our own will that we're here, but it is by His grace that we're here.
So did you discover whether you were stressed or been waiting for the last, I've been waiting for the end to know?
There is something Mr. Karumba has said, and I think it is good stress that I was experiencing, so we can distinguish between the good and the bad. So it helps stretch our minds to the betterment of our lives. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you. We've also learned a lot, and it is you know, there is no limit to learning. So I believe we can have many more of these sessions, which will be very educative to everybody, not only to the elderly, but even the guys who are not married yet. So they will also learn a lot. Yeah. So I would also like to take this opportunity to thank God for this wonderful, wonderful session. I'd also like to thank our vicar. He's called Canon Joshua Omongo. He's the vicar of St. Mark's Westlands Agriculture. Also, I'd also like to acknowledge the president of the COF is called Lionel, Mr. and Mrs. Lionel Mwangi. I'd also like to acknowledge the organizing committee. We actually have several cell groups among COF. So this was the Lower Kabete cell group that helped organize all this. I'd also like to recognize also the other cell groups that we have in COF. We have the Mombasa Road cell group. We have Thika Road. They call themselves the Berians. So I got to know when I first come in COF, I was wondering where are these guys. And then we also have the Upper Westlands, and then the Lower Westlands, and then we have the Lower Kabete. So if you'd like to be a member of COF, you can come and join, and you will learn and find out where you're better placed in these cell groups. And also, I would also like to thank our viewers at the same time, and not also forgetting our lovely guests, couples, the Kimoyos, the Gatumas, the Karumbas, Professor Sur. We're very, very grateful for that moment. And I'd also like to thank us. I don't know who is going to thank us, but yes. For this session. And we hope that we'll continue growing. And also, not forgetting the technical team who are behind us. They're quite a number. You will see them in the cast if they're there. And also, we also want also to acknowledge the Clarence Hotel for giving us this venue, this wonderful venue. It's located along School Lane in Westlands. So if you just want to pass by, it's a very, very wonderful, wonderful hotel. So thank you very much.
Thank you.